Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. We're here and we're back at it. But before we get on into it, let me get the easy stuff out of the way. As always, make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. I don't know where any of them are, and I'm never going to learn, but I trust you. Now let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hi, I'm bdbtch666.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
Go ahead and tell us just, a little bit about, where you're from, what you do. Give us that Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
My name is Kenzie. I am from Massachusetts originally, but I am now an Oregonian, if you can call me that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you live here, I think.
Yeah.
It depends on who you are, but if you live here,
yeah, I would say so. I'm an Oregonian. I am currently operating as bdbtch666, which is a solo act, and the project kind of encapsulates a multitude of genres. So the goal is really to move further into dark trap, but I started from a pretty dark gothic sound. I'm moving into a little bit more metal, which is really what I have a background in, and then slowly but surely eventually getting towards the spooky hip hop that I really want to be making. And as of right now, I'm kind of doing the vocals all on my own, and then I have a couple of producers that I work with in terms of beat making and audio recording, mixing, and mastering. Eventually, I would like to do everything myself. That's the goal.
I think that's always a good goal to have. It's fine if you're one of those people who's just I can't put my head around this.
Yeah.
But if you have the tenacity for it and it's something you enjoy, it's always so much cooler when you can be I have an idea. I made an example. Even if you don't end up being the finished product every time, being able to show up to somebody that does a certain sound a certain way with something to show them to build off of.
Exactly.
Because then it's still your vision.
Yeah.
They don't even have to think about what would be perfect for this person. But they know that they're going to do what they do, and you already put your thoughts into it at the same time. So it becomes collaborative, but it's the best of both. Exactly.
And I think a big challenge for me has really been finding people to work with who will honor my vision or, are able to understand my vision enough to co-create it with me, Well,
also, I think there's the option to be a front performer who has a supporting band versus a band.
Yeah.
And so I think regardless of what your direction you choose to go, I think that some people go into one thinking it's the other.
Exactly. And I've always understood the two as completely separate things. And I'm very interested in fronting a band at some point. It will not be this project, probably be a little bit more metal or deathy. But I actually, I moved to Oregon in search of bandmates. That was a big part of the reason I moved here, was to be a part of the musical community and find other instrumentalists to make music with me. But I moved very shortly before COVID.
Yeah.
And so the natural progression of that was all right, fuck it. I guess I'll just do it myself.
Yep. Yeah. That was a time that kind of threw progress off for everybody, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's forced me to be a lot more self-sufficient, though, and definitely opened up doors in terms of sound that I never would have reached for.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just having heard what I've heard so far, it's definitely a really interesting mix. And I feel if we were to listen to some at the end,
if we were to listen.
If only there was something happening at the end. I wonder if anybody read the title of this episode. But it was cool because getting to experience it as it was happening, I didn't always expect what happened, and that's always fun for me. You know, the show's put on a lot of music at this point, and like being able to not throw a wrench in things, but kind of like move the song in a different direction and still have it feel organic and true to the song itself. It's a really cool like ability, I guess, a really cool focus, and I think that you did a really good job in it. You know, if it were to happen,
if it happened, I really appreciate that. That's a very like thoughtful compliment, and makes me feel a lot better about creating music that's kind of like fusion.
Yeah,
because it can be really challenging to brand myself and find an audience who understands or is interested in the work I'm doing. But I'm happy that it is like captivating in that way.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting. And I think that when somebody starts doing a genre that is like a true blend of a few, I think it takes a little while. It takes longer, not just because of the comfort level, but because you're taking two sounds and putting them together. And that needs to take an amount of time to become its own sound. Like eventually it's not the blend of the two, it is your unique style. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a merger of two things that don't interact per se, or like aren't in the way that you're doing it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think the genre that is really my goal is already like a genre that is fusion. Dark trap is a combination of elements of, I would say personally, like rock or metal and trap, which are very polar genres. And so to be creating stuff to just try to approach that genre that is not that genre has been a really fun kind of melting pot of sounds and experimentation.
Yeah, definitely. Now, do you play any instruments as well?
Yeah, and so that's been a piece of the pie as well. I started as a pianist as a young kid, and I didn't stick with it because my education was really rigorous, and I wasn't able to keep up with my passion, which is really heartbreaking to me because all I wanted to learn about was music. And then around college, I started playing bass guitar. And I still play bass.
Shout out to bass players.
Bassists. We're the coolest.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I did play bass briefly in a project that unfortunately never got off the ground. Like we wrote a whole EP. We were recording it, and the project broke up. But I was really excited about that, and hopefully we'll get to implement those instruments in my own work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your take on like using parts of things from like songs from bands that never like came out? Because like, you know, we have a bunch of stuff from Smooth Talk that now just it never got released or anything like that.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm just like I can't bring myself to listen to it. Like, and I'm always just like, no.
It's emotional.
Yeah. So it's always such a weird moment for me to like go back to those projects.
Yeah. So in the specific case that I had, another band member had written pretty much all of the material, and so we left it with him because it was his work. And then, you know, for a while we were trying to operate under we kind of created a second project, and I wrote some stuff and the other members wrote some stuff, and they continued without me. It was my decision. And they scratched everything I wrote out of respect for me. I didn't really think that they needed to, but I appreciated the thought. It was kind of sad because I almost felt like I was being erased from the project in a way, but my contribution was pretty minor. I wrote like on one song. Yeah. So it wasn't, you know, a huge portion of work that I felt got deleted.
Yeah, I guess if the band continues to, there's always that role of like, is it recreatable without that person kind of thing?
Right. Yeah. And luckily I didn't. They hopefully are not really running into that with me because of how little we actually got done. But that's a good question.
Yeah, thank you. This next one is definitely a crowd favorite. It's definitely one we ask early. It's really fun. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Oh, I knew this question was coming and I didn't prepare for it. Let me think for a second. I gotta go back. Because when I was growing up, we had iTunes, so I was buying albums with iTunes, but I would also go into like Newberry Comics and buy records. I think
let's do the first tangible one.
Tangible. Okay, good, because that'll be a better choice, I think. I'm picturing my CD collection. I think it was "Take This to Your Grave" by Fall Out Boy.
Okay. Okay. Solid choice.
Thank you. I was really into emo.
Did you, this kind of ties into this question, so I'll kind of ask them together. The question itself is, tell us about the first like show you ever went to with your own money.
Yeah.
But like, what was your favorite show around that time as well, if they're not the same show?
Yeah, it would be the same show.
Okay, cool.
I grew up in an incredibly restrictive household, so for me to go to a concert was like, it took months of convincing my parents, and there had to be somebody else's parent that came along, and I got to go and see my sophomore year of high school. It was my first show. I'm like 16. I got to go see Fall Out Boy's reunion. It wasn't really a reunion tour. It was the first tour right off of the hiatus. And they announced at the same time the release of Save Rock and Roll. And so they played some songs off of that record. And Panic at the Disco opened for them. And it was just such an incredible combination. And I remember at one point, a white grand piano descended from the ceiling of the Songa Center in Lowell, and Brendan Urie was playing it and did, his feature on Fall Out Boy's song, $20 Nosebleed. And it was just a magical time. I was so young. I was in a pit for the first time. I didn't know what to do. I screamed a lot.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I got to see Panic at the Disco, Motion City soundtrack, and the Black Keys. Went right after Panic at the Disco had released Pretty Odd.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
you lived my dream.
Oh, it was. I went for Motion City soundtrack.
Yeah,
I got to meet
of course.
them, it was incredible. The singer touched my head.
Were you bald at the time?
No.
Like this?
No, he just put his hand physically on my head. But that was the first time because I had listened to Panic at the Disco before that, but I wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah.
And then I saw them live and I was like, because it was after they had kind of dropped the theatrical stuff.
Yeah.
So they were dressed more folky.
Yeah. Pretty Odd is very.
Yeah, very folky. But they didn't put a lot of flash and bang into the performance, but they just crushed it.
Every time.
And that was when I was like, well, now I have to maybe I missed something, and I went back and listened to the first album.
Yeah.
And it just every track hits. Every track hits.
Not one miss.
There's a production in it. If you go and take the time and actually listen to how the arrangement is done, listen to how the sounds interact with each other, listen to the dynamic changes and everything. It's whoever produced it very well, and they performed well. They just had that demeanor, that feel, that over presentation in the beginning, which I think as young musicians, we all kind of do to a degree. That's part of the fun of it, too, is just how much can you do? And, eventually they tamed that back, and then they moved on to where they are now.
Exactly.
But that was definitely one of those moments where I was like, oh, I have to listen to music differently.
Exactly.
I was so turned off by the visual loud and the crowd attached because of it, and just I didn't think I loved the music because I was like, oh, it's so angsty, it's so But then I actually sat down with it and I was like, there's music here, and it's really cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool that I in my most recent single, Oh My God, They Were Roommates, I reference 5 Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco tracks throughout the lyrics of the song. Little Easter egg for you guys.
Y'all gonna have to listen to it. All right, now this next question, it's a little bit headier.
Sure.
Do you have a defining moment where you like decided you wanted to do music as your like main thing? Because I know you said you wanted to do it since you were pretty young.
Yeah.
But like, do you have a defining moment that you like made the decision actively?
Yes. Yeah, I spent a lot of my life trying to find ways to be involved in music that were not actually creating and releasing music, which, like, as you mentioned, is what I've really always wanted, but didn't believe was possible for myself. And the turning point for me really was that I owned a media platform. Full circle moment.
Weird.
I used to be on your side of the interview, and granted,
I used to be on your side of the interview. Sorry,
We swapped.
I had to get that one out. That was my dumb one for this episode.
it
Y'all.
was
You're
a good
welcome.
moment.
All right, please continue.
Thank you. And I mean, I was doing it during COVID, and I had just moved to Oregon. And so it was a really challenging time to be trying to get involved in the musical community in the first place, as a newcomer, as somebody who wasn't like trusted by all the members of the community yet. And I did that for a while. And while I really enjoyed the work that I was doing, I just didn't feel fulfilled by it, and it really felt like work. And I don't remember specifically what happened, but there was one day where I woke up and I was going about my duties for the platform, and I just decided, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I have so much FOMO, helping bring everyone else's vision to life, because part of it was not only doing interviews, but I also did music videos. I did, logo design, art, stuff like that, multimedia. And I was like, I really have to do this for myself. Like, I've spent so much time investing in other people's dreams, and it's never going to give me, the sense of purpose that, I know that I could have. And so I cut my losses, and I closed down the business account. I deleted the website. I deleted the social media, released some statements before I did those things. Yeah. And ever since, I've just been focusing on making music.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a pretty serious change then.
Yeah, it was really hard, because I had to look at the transition not as me failing at owning a business like I had wanted to for a long time, but like me succeeding in putting myself and my dream and my vision first.
Yeah.
And, believing that I had something valuable enough, as a musician to actually make that jump and to go for it.
Do you think that your time and experience, like managing the people doing the things, gave you a clearer vision of what you wanted to do when it came time to doing yours?
I think in certain senses, yes. Like, I had pretty good understanding of, how I wanted to be represented in the media. And like, I love to direct my own music videos. I mean, obviously I can't film myself the way I would like to. But, I think I still struggled after that, kind of in terms of the sound that I wanted to make. Like, I had approached music with this very visual, intellectual lens. And then to actually kind of get away from that and move into audio, like it took a lot of work to take those glasses off, take that hat off. And
I'm literally going through the same thing in reverse. Like, I'm coming from a world that's entirely audio, and now I'm doing all the video editing, and the buttons are they're so close to each other, but they're not the same buttons.
They're not the same buttons.
Like, you can't do certain basic functions in one, but then there are basic functions that you learn in the new one that you're like, wait, now I wish this could do that. Right?
Yeah. It's a confusing overlap, because they are very similar but very different. Yeah. And it's cool to hear that you're kind of like having the same experience but from the other way around.
Yeah. Sorry, got caught up in that one.
That's all I had to say.
All right, let's move on to some more artist-focused questions.
Okay.
And we're going to get the easy one out of the way.
Yeah.
How did you pick your name?
I had a feeling when I came on today that you were going to ask me this question, and I don't really have a good answer for it. I was kind of... sitting around doodling one day while I was like thinking about who I wanted to be. And I came up with the name and the logo almost exactly at the same time. And so, again, that very visual kind of representation is entangled with the branding. But I think that's a good thing. And I don't know. I just, my whole life I've kind of been in this box where I'm a very sweet person. I can be a very soft-spoken person. I grew up in a home where I very much had to fit a specific mold, and maintain a certain lifestyle. I was very sheltered in a lot of ways. Not allowed to swear, which is interesting.
No,
given my
you
name
totally
choice.
can. Oh, in your household.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
All right,
Oh,
sorry.
no, you're fine.
I was like, oh, no, this is YouTube.
You can do whatever you want to do. Well, and so, choosing this name was like a really, it was a move towards empowerment for me. Like the idea of being bad, like the reclamation of the word bitch, like as a person who identifies, I'm not cis, but I do identify as female. Just kind of like taking these really like sharp, harsh, like pieces of imagery like used to describe women and really like owning them and being like, yeah, like I can be those things and I can make it cool.
I dig that.
That's kind of all it is.
Also, I love how you're like, yeah, I don't really have an answer, and then gave a great answer.
Oh,
like,
okay, cool.
That was the opposite of not having an answer. That was
nice.
cool.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about your writing process. Like when you sit down, and like I realized I have to kind of clarify this one a little bit more, so I'm putting it on here for every future person. Tell us about how you start a track, and then give us the overview. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So my brain works very conceptually, and I will typically come up with a base idea, whether the idea, typically it's lyrical, being a writer and a vocalist. And I will kind of take that idea and think about how I would like it to sound. And then so sometimes I'll have some pieces of lyrics done. Sometimes I'll have like a whole chorus. Sometimes I'll have the whole song written. Like I'll just go and I'll just finish it. But it's usually this kind of core idea. And from there I will go, and because I'm not currently writing my own beats, I will go, and I used to find beats on different websites, but now I have a beat producer, Zeppel Beats, and I've bought a certain amount of beats from him. So I'll kind of find one that I like that fits with this concept I already have in my head. And typically they just kind of come together organically, but like there's some tailoring to, make the syllable count fit the space I have. Yep. Sometimes I'll work with him on like altering the beats a little bit to be what I want them to be. And then I will, in the past, I've gone into a studio and recorded the audio, and then had the audio edited, and then had the whole thing mixed and mastered and released. But, again, the goal is just to do kind of everything within the comfort of my own home. Okay. And before that, my first EP, I wrote directly with my producer and went into the studio, and we wrote a lot together, which was a dynamic that I really liked. But again, I didn't always feel like I really had full control like I wanted.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Now, out of your entire discography, what song would you say represents you best as an artist at the moment?
At the moment? That's a good question. I think, Oh My God, They Were Roommates is probably the best example of what I'm trying to do and where I'm trying to go. I've had a lot of trouble with censorship in terms of what I do with my voice, because I am a classically trained vocalist. A lot of people would really like me to use those skills, but I really like screaming and making fun noise. There's like a lot of different vocal layers in that song. Yeah. And
yes, there is.
I know I looked at the backing track and I was like, it doesn't even sound like a backing track. I don't know, the writing is very cheeky. It's very it's about a very taboo subject, which is something I like to do a lot with my music, and that's kind of like part of why I chose the Nowhere that I did, to kind of normalize things that might be considered unacceptable in culture. And I don't know, it's a really fun song. I think it moves. I think it's catchy. I think it's a little bit of an earworm, and I kind of want to make more stuff like that.
That makes perfect sense. You're allowed to have any vision you want for your music. Like, that's how music is. That's the fun of it. But I think when people lean towards the fun side, it's always more fun. Like, I was talking to, I think I was talking to Winslow about this. Shout out Winslow. He and I were talking about how, like, there are people who just, like, they play 1,000 instruments. They, like, jump around. They do a bunch of things, all these loopers, all this stuff, and all these things. And he was like, yeah, and I'm, like, interested in doing that as well. And I asked him, I was like, do you enjoy doing a bunch of tasks at once? Like, is that something that you find fulfillment doing? Or would you rather do, like, 2 or 3 things and then bring somebody on to do 2 or 3 things? Like, you can still have that energy, that element. But if it's not something you, like, enjoy doing or want to learn to enjoy doing, just don't do it that way. Right? Yeah.
Totally.
And if you have fun doing something a certain way, it doesn't harm anybody if you're not doing if you're not doing it in a way that's not harmful.
Exactly. I think I've always kind of visualized my future band as, like, the serious work kind of project. But doing this project and doing something, I mean, even if some of the songs are about serious matters, like, they're all fun. They're all fun for me to make. They're all fun for me to perform. They're fun for me to make visuals for and market. And, like, I think it's given me a really fresh view on creating. Like, it doesn't have to be this, like intense labor. Like, no. I don't know, like, I do it because I find joy in it. And getting back to that, like, just my love for singing, for writing. I don't know.
For creating.
Creating,
yeah. Like,
it's been huge.
You have to like, this isn't one of those, it's not the destination, it's the journey. But you have to love the process, even when you hate the process.
Exactly.
Like, you could be frustrated in the thick of it because you haven't completed the idea. But if you can't love those moments, or at the very least love that point of relief, that moment where you're finally done and you're just like, it's done. Like, if you can't climb a mountain to reach that feeling, it's just not as fun.
Oh, certainly not. Yeah, I remember when I was first deciding, to be a solo artist, I was like, do I enjoy the process of making music? Because this is the first time I'd done it. I was like, do I actually want it? Like, is this the path for my life? And the answer was yes.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm going to keep doing it because I have so much fun doing it.
I've never shared this on the show before, but there was a moment, my moment for when I knew, like, this was what I wanted to do for sure. It was like 2:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. I was so deep in this edit because I got home late. It was when I was still doing, like, just the audio stuff, and it was way before Cameron. Shout out Cameron. And I was, like, looking at, I couldn't figure out where, like, what I was doing at a certain point, and then I just looked up and I was like, I should hate this.
Yeah.
Like, 100%. Like, this is the worst. Like, I work in the morning, nothing's coming together. I can't get the words out right. Like, and I just couldn't. Like, the only thought that existed in my brain was like, I've got to get this done.
Yeah.
I'm so much closer to getting this done than not getting this done. I've started it. Like, I have to finish it because that's what feels the most right. That's what feels the most complete. And it definitely wasn't one of the best episodes I've ever done, but it got it done. And I think that like I said, you have to be willing to climb a mountain to reach your end goal every time. Mm-hmm. Not because the mountains get smaller, but because you get better at climbing mountains faster.
Yeah, you gain new tools for climbing that mountain.
Yeah.
You got better sticks. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you need to climb a mountain.
Yeah, well, physical tools and just mental prowess. Like, once you've reached the top of Everest, and you're like, oh, cool, I could do this. I did this. I could climb any mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you keep working up bigger mountains with better stuff.
Heck yeah.
And the stuff doesn't have to be tangible for everybody's like, well, you can make something with nothing. Stuff's in here.
This is the stuff.
Stuff is in here. And that's kind of to jump back to a question I asked earlier. Part of the reason I had asked you if like your purview from doing the outside in stuff, not so much the like, did you have like a way to market, but as far as creating goes, you got to see a lot of opportunities where people were creating, where they got to exist in their moments.
Yeah.
Did you take anything away from that? Like, was there anything that from somebody's process that you like enjoyed so much it became a part of your foundation?
That's a really good question. Let me think about that for a second.
Yeah, take your time. Fades to black. No, I'm kidding.
Just fall asleep. I think something that was kind of big for me was realizing because
sorry,
no, that was a really pleasing sound.
I always forget how loud those are.
It was nice.
I was trying to like do it. I was like,
I was interviewing this artist who had traveled to make a lot of her music and worked with people from abroad. And I had never really considered that a possibility. I was really kind of like caging myself into, Portland. Like I'd moved here to make music with people here. So like why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't I? Yeah. And I mean, it's not really a huge, like, it's not like a process, but it's more of like, a perspective. Like I realized like I have a whole world of musicians that I can work alongside. And my beat producer Zeppel, he is from Madrid, Spain. And I don't know, it's just like really leveled up my game to know that anywhere I go, I can make music, that anywhere I go, I can meet other people to make music with. And sometimes it'll be better music because we're not like stuck in the same trends, the same practices, around the same groups of people with the same ideas. And it's definitely inspired me. I haven't had the chance to yet, but I would really love to travel and like just go write an EP. Zeppel and I have been talking about me coming to Madrid and doing that.
Hell yeah. That's exciting.
Right.
Making music in other places is... I gotta think how to word this right. Like the mentality that you should move out of your hometown kind of attaches to this. Like there's so much culture in music that immersing yourself in a different place lets you leave with a piece of that culture. And so kind of like with the, fusion genres and things like that. Excuse me.
Yeah.
When you go to somewhere else in the world where music has developed completely different, it is only shareable.
Yeah.
But it's not like they're gatekeeping it. It's not like they're like, oh, you're not from here, so no. But it's just so available. Like, and there's so many parts of the world where music is just so loud. Not like volume wise, but anywhere you go, like people are just making it in the streets.
Exactly.
As just like kind of a cultural thing, not even as like busking, you know what I mean? Like they are just making music because it's
for the love of it.
Yeah, because it's part of the culture.
Exactly.
And so being able to go somewhere where that happens and feel that happen and like experience it and then put it into your own music, it's super cool.
Okay, I haven't made anything with it yet, but I studied abroad in Italy years ago, and I saw this man playing what's known as, it has two names. It's a hand pan or a hang, and it's a big like steel drum. And it was like the most gorgeous thing I'd ever heard in my entire life. And I got my college to help fund one for me for like a senior project. Yeah, so I have one, and hopefully it will appear in something I make at some point.
Ooh.
But I know that exact feeling of like being in the street and just experiencing music. And it's not for a capitalist reason. It's just like for the love of creating and sharing like art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not being able to keep it inside of you.
Yeah.
Because that's not even something that like I can do actively. I can't just like go outside and like start playing a song. Like it just like I can but I don't, like it doesn't even live in me in that strength, but just anybody who can go and just do it, not need a stage, not need a, like the world is their stage, quote unquote, but like not need a schedule to do it. Not to, like, they're just, I want to make music. I'm going to make music. Here is me making music.
I think there's this weird culture of shame in America where we kind of like keep a lot of pieces of ourselves very private. I think it's part of being more of like an individualistic culture, but like, I don't know. I don't really see people on the street making music like really being encouraged as often as I've seen it here versus like other places.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, even me, like, let's say I'm just like walking home at night, even from like my parking garage. Like if I see another person around and I'm like singing to myself, I'll stop because I get nervous or anxious of what they're going to think, which is silly. Why should I care?
I mean, there's something to be said for like not wanting your sound to be intrusive in a place where it's not supposed to be outwardly presented all the time.
That's true. Yeah,
like,
respect.
Exactly. Like we ingrain volume as a respect, whereas somebody walking by, like when we could have possibly been doing the music stuff earlier today because we had to do it earlier while the sun was up. Definitely did it after this episode, quote unquote.
After.
Yeah. But when we were walking around earlier, we heard the person down in the river or wherever just like projecting, and it was like that cool like lower tone voice.
It was beautiful.
And just, and it was, and that like even though we were actively doing something, it was just so like enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people are bothered by songs that aren't like actively like, unpleasant on purpose. But if you're just singing, if you're just feeling it, like, I don't know how many people are ever going to really be bothered by that.
Yeah, maybe.
But we as people always assume they're going to be bothered by it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more internal than we think it is.
Yeah, because it's just volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was also, we got to hear so much beautiful music today on our way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we didn't. Well, maybe we did. Perhaps.
Potentially after this.
Possibly. Possibly a piano player and a full band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or full brass section.
I thought the band was, when I parked, there was an Amazon van that parked in the opposite way as me. Like we both parallel parked at the same time.
Yeah. And
when I got out, the person got out with their door open, was just kind of like sitting in their door with their legs out.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds surprisingly better than it should for an Amazon van. Like that sounds really realistic and full. Yeah. And like it was just going because it was like a horn section.
It was beautiful.
And it didn't even fade. Like I didn't put the lack of change of volume as I walked away from it into account. And so I was standing there with y'all and we were talking for a minute. And then suddenly I was like, wait, that's live. Oh, damn. Like just the way the sound had happened, it like seemed like it was coming from it. And my brain was other places by the time we got to that point.
Like, wait a second.
Yeah. So no, there was so much music happening.
It made me so much more comfortable. That's something I struggle with a lot is like, and I think that's a big part of why I make the music I make is like taking up space, like feeling comfortable doing that. Like I was so nervous about just going out in the wild and singing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I don't think that's something every artist struggles with. I don't know if it's like a product of my upbringing or like my femininity, or just how new I am to, playing music.
Yeah.
But that's something I struggle with a lot.
It's definitely something I'm learning has a very dynamic range as I do, like the Jimmy's Jambox stuff, or the Jimmy's Jambox lives. Because, you are making your music in a place that is not specifically a place where music is made. Mm-hmm. It's, it's like the out in the world aspect. So there is a discomfort in it. And then even further, the being one continuous take.
Yeah.
Like that is something that, and I don't really explain this on the show a lot, but the concept really exists in the music isn't supposed to be perfect.
No.
Especially when presented, like when performed. Mm-hmm. Like we get the gift of a recorded platform that we can enjoy a singular take. But the live performance of that music is at least for me, you know, there's all individual subjective, but for me, the live performance is the music. Like performing the music, it should be the most fun part. Yeah. The most fun should be the performance. Mm-hmm. And catching that, like experiencing that is just so, like it's powerful in its own ways. It's enjoyable in its own ways, but it's really like, it feels good. It's
precious.
Yeah, because it's a true moment in time that could have only existed in that way.
Exactly. That's why we pay money to go see it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why people devote big portions of their life going and doing it.
Yes, very much so. Now, we're going to move into some more hypothetical questions.
Oh, okay.
Actually, before we do that, I don't always ask this one because I'm not always 100% sure on who does and who doesn't, because I don't always get a ton of time to research.
Cool.
What is it like making a music video? Tell us. And since you have both perspectives, can you first tell us the, like, from the outside in, and then from the inside out?
Oh my God. Okay. So from the outside in, when you say that, do you mean like from a production standpoint?
Yeah, like production, and like when you were working with other people who were making theirs. Like, give us the, like, when you, like, because since that's how you started with it first, like, tell us the order. Yeah,
so typically, I mean, you know, a music video is meant to accompany a song. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of people, that might look like creating a visualization of the concept that is illustrated in the song. For some people, it's something completely different. Some people just want something that looks cool, you know? And so you'll generally start off with a concept, whether it is a concept that the artist comes to you with or the artist develops, or if it's something, you know, the director kind of schemes up on their own. Sometimes it's a combination of the two. And for me, I'm so happy I get to talk about this. The first part is storyboarding. And this is where you sit out and you listen through the music and you decide exactly what the camera is going to capture for what parts of the song. And this can take a long time because you're going to want to go shot by shot, or at least scene by scene. Mm-hmm. So you're going to generally have an idea of exactly what angles the camera is going to be capturing the scene from, what is in the scene, what's happening in the scene, what actions are there. And you're going to do this for the whole song. There's a lot of things to consider. There's cast, there's costuming, there are visual effects, lighting, there's like, you know, the location and the time that you're shooting at. Is it going to be a narrative music video? Is it going to tell a story? Or is it just going to be kind of more of a visualization? And so you go through and you plan the whole thing out. And you'd like to think that whatever it is that you plan is going to be exactly what you get.
Oh, of course.
Very rarely.
It always works out 100% of the time, 100%. Every time.
Yeah. And, you know, it's, you know, you'll set up a shooting schedule that the artist can work with, that any actors or performers, sometimes you'll have dancers, stuff like that, can meet. You're going to work with camera person or camera people. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to coach the camera people, if they are not already the director, through exactly what they're going to need to do. You're going to need to source your camera equipment before you do that. Oh my God, it's such a long process. Okay, you get to the shooting day. Mm-hmm. You get to the shooting day. You're running the sound. Here's the most fun about making a music video is you're going to hate the song that you're making the music video for.
Oh yeah, by the time you're done, because you have to hear the same instance of it, I assume, a trillion times.
It'll be your least favorite song you've ever heard. It doesn't matter how excited you are about this music video, you're not going to want to listen to it. You know, you shoot everything. Typically, you're going to shoot out of order, you know, based on what criteria are met. Some things have to happen in a certain sequence. So you have to organize which shots you do when, how they work, get them done. Some things are going to go wrong, and you're going to need to figure out how to work around them. Let's see. That's a very simple version of what a shooting day is like. They're usually pretty stressful because you got to get wardrobe and makeup. You have to have everyone on the same page. I had scheduled 5 hours for my haunted house music video, thinking, you know, it'll take 2.5, but I'll be safe. We took almost 6 hours, and luckily the venue was very graceful with us. Yeah. And it was I was running everywhere. I love that music video. Okay, so you shoot it, you take it all to post, everything has to get cut up and edited, synced with the music. Maybe you've funded some video effects, and the editing period can take quite a long time, as I imagine you understand.
Oh, we'll talk about that one off camera.
Just from like an artistic standpoint, really lining everything up in a way that is impactful emotionally or just visually stimulating, you know? And hopefully then the artist likes it and is happy with the work that you've done, whether that's you or somebody else. Some music videos are really complicated and some are really simple. For my skeletons visualizer, I mounted a camera to the ceiling above my bed, and I took my pose and stay skeletons and recorded myself for like an hour, 2 hours in varying positions with them, and then edited all of those pieces together into a sequence that I found, emotional. And, messed with the color to tell the story, and as well as, the zoom and whatnot. And it's all just transitions of different shots from that. Still, that was the easiest thing I've ever done. The haunted house music video, I had I think 5 actors and myself. I had an external venue. I was actually working with Underhill Haunted House. Thank you guys so much for making that happen for me. I had a camera person. I had an assistant to help me set up all the lighting and any necessary like effects like fog machines, stuff like that. So it was like I had to keep everybody on script, had to get everything shot in time, got to explore a really cool, fun set.
Hell yeah.
And, it was like one of the scenes is very bloody. We had a lot of fake blood on hand. So we had to get it right in that one take because the outfits were white.
Yeah.
And if we messed up, there was like no going back from that point.
Yeah.
So the pressure was on, but we did it. I did it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you find that there was like let me rephrase this one.
Yeah.
So going from a setting like that where you contracted equipment, you know what I mean? Like going from that to the now like more minimal approach. What are some of the things that you enjoy about the change? The change.
I think a big part of it is kind of what you're doing with your platform is just like the focus on performance. If I'm not telling a big crazy story, like a lot of the visual can just be about showcasing like my performance and what that looks like for me. And, maybe having other elements that help to create a certain mood, whether that's lighting or costuming or whatnot. But like lately I've just been recording content for like TikTok and Instagram Reels that I've been having just as much fun with as I would making a music video. And it's just performance shots, like really bringing the media back to like what it's all about.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to jump into some hypothetical questions. And these ones are a lot of fun.
Okay.
If you could work with any one artist who's currently alive.
Oh my God.
And if it's a group, you have to pick one member of the group. Who would it be?
I'm going to go for my solo project because that's who you're interviewing right now.
Yes.
Because there's a million other answers I could give if I was in a band right now. I think Ghostmane.
Okay.
The whole reason I want to make dark trap is because like my entire view on music changed from being somebody who was really into like rock and metal. When I heard Drown by Ghostmane in 2017, I was like, oh my God, I don't like hip hop. I don't like trap at the time. But I really like what this person is doing. Like they are making something that is so aesthetically diverse and interesting and, really aggressive is not the right word. Really impactful, I think. And I've gotten to see Ghostmane like 3 or 4 times. I'm going to go see him again in October.
Hell yeah.
I have tried to interview him. They couldn't find him.
Well, if anybody knows, no.
I mean, who's to say? But yeah, I would absolutely love to work with him. He's the inspiration behind why I started making music in this genre. And I love that he is completely independent. I love that he produces everything himself. And I really like the way he expresses himself.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Now, subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't interacted with yet, but you would like to?
I guess it depends how closely, because the person I would like to work with locally the most, I have like had some interactions with from like fan to artist, but not so much like between artists. I would really like to work with Witch House 40K.
Okay. Yeah.
I've mentioned it. I would really love to buy a feature or collaborate on something. I create to his work pretty regularly. I've gotten the pleasure of like meeting him a couple times in passing, and I would really like to make something together.
Well, if anybody knows which has 40K, make it happen. All right, now this is just kind of a fun one, so feel free to kind of go broad with this, and I feel like you'll have a fun answer. If you could perform anywhere in the world, and I mean, and
anywhere,
there will be power available, there will be a crowd, accessibility, no problems, like anywhere in the world, where would you want to perform?
I would love to perform in the catacombs.
Okay.
I've only been to the catacombs in Paris, so I'm not sure what the other ones are like, but it was such a unique, visceral experience. And like, it's a place that is very quiet for a reason.
Yeah. One would hope.
I mean, the walls are lined with skulls and bones.
You're just walking down, you just hear, hey.
But like, I mean, also there's a respect factor when you go and you visit the catacombs. People are generally like very, very quiet and keep to themselves. If they're speaking, it's usually a whisper, unless you're in like a guided tour.
Yeah.
But I think making music in that setting would be so unique and spooky.
Yeah.
And it would just really like be in line with, I think, my branding and vision.
I was going to say, I feel like, just from what we may be hearing at the end of this episode, like I can imagine it with that like tone of room, and it definitely lands. And
I'm short enough to fit in the catacombs, so.
Oh, fair. They weren't as tall back then.
No. Well, they built it pretty small, yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this is the last of the hypothetical questions, and this is kind of a broad stroke one.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a completely different genre than any genre you've performed thus far, so if you've done it before, you can't pick it. But if you had to pick a completely different genre and you would be equally as proficient as the one you were most capable in, what would it be?
There's so many genres. I think a genre I've kind of always like flirted with has been folk, actually.
Okay.
Even though it's so extremely different than what I make, it's kind of like the outlier in my Spotify algorithm. Like I really love just like the sweet, soft intimacy that a lot of folk artists have. And I'm not talking like Bob Dylan. There's like a lot of like modern.
Listen here, Bap. No.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. There's like a lot of like modern folk artists who are men or women with like really beautiful, soothing voices, whose music is very minimalistic, but like just as vivid. One of my favorites is like Paris Paloma. She's kind of blowing up. She's from England. And like my voice has always been really well suited to folk. Like I used to sing a little bit of like Celtic music when I was younger because it's my background and I was interested in it. And I think it's something that would really suit me. It would be really nice to do something like soft and sweet next to all of this like loud, grating sound that I like to make.
I think it's also cool, like doing a genre that's the opposite of your primary genre, I think allows you to learn a little bit more of, not learn, but like experience dynamics differently.
Yeah.
Like when you were going from everything has to be to now everything has to be
really
but you still have to give something into it, and it's still going to be you.
Yeah.
So now you are taking this knowledge of loud and making it soft.
Exactly.
And that definitely has a dynamic to it.
Dynamic is definitely the word. Like, I feel like I noticed dynamics the most in music that has a lot of room to it.
Yeah, well, even, and especially in like folk music, there are plenty of times where there are a lot of instruments, but the presence of the instruments is never the most like upfront thing.
No.
Like when vocals are happening at the least.
Yeah.
But every instrument kind of ties itself to each other. And so you get this like this wall of sound, but it's not like in like heavier genres where it's like it's supposed to hit you. Like it's supposed to be this foundation that the vocals just kind of dip in and out of.
Exactly.
And so that has to happen a little more quietly. And so the mixes have a lot more space in them versus like something that's meant to be big. And you know, I haven't produced folk music, so don't quote me on that. But like, you know, I feel like when it comes to those kinds of things, the sounds being softer and then brought up to like that listening space, they naturally have that because in a real setting, the bands would be playing, but the vocalist would still need to be heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think this trend of attention to dynamics that is seen in like folk, or specifically the type of folk that I like at least, is starting to become pretty popular in metal, which is like one of the genres I just love the most. Like two of my favorite artists, Bad Omens and Sleep Token, have put out records recently, I mean, and in the past, for Sleep Token at least, have a lot of room to them. And it really sets them apart from everybody else in their genre, in their market. And I don't think people really perceived metal as a space that was like for that type of dynamic vision. And I just love it. I think it's so sensual.
We are really lucky to be at a point in music where the producers are not, they're not like beholden to us, like a certain style or a certain approach. Like the equipment has gotten to the point where you can capture a lot of things with similar stuff. The spaces have accommodated the ability to do things in any room, you know, out in the world even, and have it be good, like have the quality be nice and easy to work with and malleable and just sound nice so that you can get a good recording, because a good recording is the secret to a good mix.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? Like, and so I forgot where I was going with that one. I apologize. I'll let you take back over now.
Well, I guess just to keep going off of where we were, two ADHD people in one room.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you're okay with me sharing that, but like I listened to some of like the post-hardcore stuff I really enjoyed in like high school, and the recording quality is so rough. And like, I mean, I loved it back then, but just like seeing where we've come from in a matter of 10, maybe 20 years max, like it's crazy what we can do now. And like, I don't know what we can achieve with like, I feel like it's a less is more thing in a lot of cases.
Oh, definitely. And I don't know. I feel like there's an intimacy between instrument and vocals when there's only a couple, because they all either have to be very basic to let like one of the things stand out, or there's that counterpoint where like everything has to kind of exist in and around each other to the point where one isn't doing any one thing too much, but they are all collectively doing a thing.
Exactly.
So it's just kind of like locks into each other. Yeah. And there's definitely stuff, like there's space for that. I think there's space for all of it, you know. I asked this question to somebody the other day, and I haven't really brought this question back since, but I'm kind of curious on your take on it. And this will be the last one before we wrap it up, I promise.
Perfect. Oh, I'm having a great time.
Music has become so accessible on a creative platform. Like anybody can make music with anything now. You know, you can have a looper pedal, you can use your iPhone, you can use, you know, literal studio equipment just in your living room.
I have that.
How do you feel that has impacted music?
That's a good question. I mean, I think in terms of like sheer volume, like we have more artists on a yearly basis than we ever have. Like I remember starting to release music in 2021, and even then, like the amount of time I needed for it to be uploaded through my distribution site was much shorter than now in 2023. There are just such a multitude of artists that like may never have existed without this level of accessibility, and I'm one of them. Like I personally, I have to be grateful to have access to music the way I do now that I didn't growing up. And like, I think there's a lot of people who might look at this as like a negative thing because the market is so saturated. But like for me, I see a lot of opportunity there. Like, sure, there might be a lot more to filter through now, but there's so much more to like love and enjoy and appreciate. And I think that, you know, giving more people like platforms and voices and places to create who may never have otherwise gotten to is just going to continue to diversify music and give us more and more like eclectic work that will be interesting for us. And I don't know, I think it's personally like a pretty cool thing. Like I could just go on Sweetwater and order whatever it is that I need. If I need like a new like studio equipment, I mean obviously the quality may not be the same as if I go into a professional recording artist studio who like has the knowledge that I don't have, but like I would never even consider being, you know, producing all of my own work if I had been a solo artist maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's how I feel as well.
Sick.
See, that was the answer. I don't even remember who I asked that a long time. It was a long time ago. But that, you know, that I share the same sentiment.
I wonder if they did. I'll have to go watch and find out.
I don't think it was a video episode.
Oh, it's just in person.
Like deep in the like early episodes of Spotify somewhere.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, I feel the same way. I think a lot of people claim that the markets are saturated.
Yeah.
But that just, there's never been a better time to go with whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. And that's so much fun because now it is so accessible. I mean, shoot, there are higher end companies putting out budget things that are just better than the previous budget options.
Yeah.
So there's a new baseline for options for quality sound even.
Yeah.
And so like even if you're not super technical or super knowledgeable in those things, you have things that are just doing it naturally as far as like a good product to work with. Like you can make cool sounding stuff without having to like, well, not cool sound, but like you can make good quality audio and fill it with whatever you want now. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty rad.
I think that's
pretty rad.
Great.
Yeah. I like, as somebody who listens to a lot of music, like my Spotify average is between 7 and 9 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah. So I need the new music. I want to hear all the things.
Yeah.
I think it's exciting to see where music is going. Especially if you've been like, everybody's like, oh, well, if you listen to music now, you're like, yeah, if you listen to music now, it is this. Mm-hmm. But if you've been listening to music for a while, there's benchmarks for all of it.
Yeah.
So like, you know, what was cool like 40 years ago, like it's still cool.
Yeah.
But like, what was happening 20 years ago? What was happening 10 years ago? What was happening 2 years ago? You know, like we only ever focus on the music at this particular moment is not the way it was when it was this moment. Mm-hmm. But every day has new moments. And there's so much music now that you can enjoy it and never have to listen to the same things twice. You can break out of your comfort zone and experience new things. Do what your parents had to do when they showed you those things, or like what you did when you found those things to begin with. And then you still have the option to go back to them whenever you want. It's a touch of a button. Mm-hmm. Like I was listening to Enter Shikari.
Hey,
I mean,
nice.
they show up every other week for me, but like, I think yesterday or the day before, like I I was getting ready to do stuff. I was like, just kind of jamming through my day. And I was like, you know what? The first album. That's what this moment needs.
Yeah, that's
and
the vibe.
Just went off on the whole album. Like, I know it cover to cover.
It's still a hit, just as good.
Yeah, and just, like, I love that. But I get equally as hyped for that as I did the first time I listened to Kameyu's new album. Like, there's so many opportunities to experience the love for music in new ways all the time. And if you don't like something you're listening to, you could just not listen. Like, we're not stuck with the radio anymore. We're not stuck with whatever is coming out of it is what we have to do. You can control your narrative for the music now, and that's really cool to me. That's my answer to the question that I asked you.
I like how open-minded you are also in circling it back from, because so many of us musicians just take it from like a creator standpoint, but like you really have to think about the listeners as well. Like as the market maybe becomes more saturated, we're also creating hungrier, more experimental, adventurous listeners who hopefully will just continue to get more involved in the community as the community grows,
I feel like community expands and contracts.
Yeah.
And so there are times where like everybody works with everybody, nobody works with anybody. And then again, there are those moments in between where people start to or people stop doing it. And there isn't a right or wrong way. Like, I'm a firm believer that music should be made with many people, because that's how it just kind of that's always been it. Music has always been a defining collective moment in social community, not just in the music community. Like back in the day, if you went to your local tavern, that's where music was happening. If you wanted to play music, you would go and play the music with the people who played the music, because the more people in the room playing the music together, the more music there was. And that was just what people would do. They'd all sit around together and enjoy music together, because that was entertainment. They didn't have TVs or cell phones, and that's not to discredit those things.
Yeah.
But there was such a natural ergonomic love for being around music back when it wasn't something you could just pick up and experience individually. And I always wonder about, like, what was it like back when to have music on a personal moment? Like, because sometimes you just sit with nobody and just listen to music. Like that's a thing people who enjoy music, or like, especially, I imagine musicians do, is that they take this private moment. But what if you wanted to, like, not play your music, but listen to music back in the day, but alone? Like they didn't even have that concept. No. The only way they could listen to music without playing the music themselves was to go to where it was at.
With other people.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't even considered this concept. I'm going to think about this for weeks now.
Oh.
What? Wow. Oh, I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to experience that, and also, like, I wonder what that must have been like.
It must be an unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if
they didn't know.
Yeah, if you didn't know that you could listen to music in the privacy of your own space, you would never want for it.
No.
It wasn't until we started recording a thing that, like, that and that's a whole new floodgates, like the concept of like recorded music and how you're like being able to control how it's presented outside of the confines of a space. Like putting music onto a platform versus standing on a platform and performing your music.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, even the terms are
There's
the
a reason
same
we use that
words.
word, yeah.
But like everything changed when music was able to be captured and shared without you there. Suddenly it became a thing. Like, the musician used to be the traveling
like a bard.
Yeah. And now the music is what travels.
Yeah.
And I never say I don't like anything about anything, but if there's one thing I could change, I wish we would dissolve the competitive element of it.
Oh.
Like why do we need a top 10 of what the rest of the country is listening to? Why do we need to have comparisons? Like, why can't you just Why can't it just be good?
It really sucks the joy out of the art in so many ways.
It for some people it definitely does. There's some people who like live in the competitive element. Yeah, so like
for me.
yeah, and I mean, so it's never something I ever discredit completely. It's just it's not my favorite part because I'm just not that way by nature.
Yeah, me either.
And I listen to so much music. Like, you know, the other day I was listening to somebody who had like 5 million followers, and then it immediately, because I was going through like my release radar, jumped to somebody with like 500 followers.
Yeah.
And I remember following the 500 follower person. Like, I looked into it more and I was like, yeah, I really like their sound. Like, these numbers, I mean, first of all, you can inflate them with so many things. You can do all this stuff. Like, you can do, getting those statements out of the way. The numbers aren't the bodies.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the numbers aren't the people who show up to share your music with you. They're not the people that like listen, that the listeners are going to listen to it. And the amount of people that show up live, they're the ones that show up for your music. And so as long as you're focusing on doing that, like, yeah, use social medias as a tool, but don't let the numbers define your music. Don't let that be what you decide is your worth in music, because they're just numbers.
Yeah.
If your phone broke and you didn't get to check them, they're not there anymore. But your music still is.
Yeah.
And that's great. Like, that's the best part. And now we get to let our music exist forever.
I know.
Yeah, even if you don't
It's
pay
such
for
a
like
blessing.
distribution. Yeah, like with it, Bandcamp.
Yeah. You can have that up there for all
Forever.
of eternity.
Forever. SoundCloud, like the internet in general. So it's just cool that music will kind of get to live eternally, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lately, like, to go back a teeny bit, like, being an artist who doesn't have a very large following at this moment, like, reframing and focusing on the individual connections I'm making with people who genuinely are enjoying what I'm creating, like, that's what I've been trying to use as a ruler for success.
Yeah.
Because, like, it can be so disheartening to, you know, just focus on, like, the numbers and the streams and stuff. But when somebody, like, actually pulls me aside or comments on my stuff and tells me that they, like, genuinely enjoy and appreciate my work, like, that's what I've been focusing on.
Yeah.
The more of that I can get, the more people that I can, like, have a human connection with, like,
an organic following.
yeah.
And like just people who are there because they like it. That should be good enough.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Like, you're you're like the reason, low-key. Low-key,
All
high-key.
right, I think this is the best moment to officially wrap this up. So tell us, do you have any big things coming up? Let's say like
Ooh.
early, mid-August. What's happening in August?
Everything is kind of up in the air in the moment. I am working on continuing to record and release some exciting things for you guys that are pretty in line with the music I've been putting out.
Fun.
There should be something in August. And
There's the potential for something in August.
There is also the potential for some performance opportunities. I may be doing a performance in late July this
exciting.
month. And if so, you guys will hear about it. And today, one of my favorite artists commented on my video covering their song. So nothing for you guys to look forward to, but a very nice moment for me.
Who was it?
Dana Dentata.
Nice.
I'm so excited. It's been such a good day. Thank you for making it such a wonderful day as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course.
Now for this next part, I'm going to have you look at the camera and just tell everybody how they can find you.
Oh my goodness. You can find bdbtch666 on all major streaming platforms. Primarily Spotify, Apple Music, but pretty much everywhere. I am also on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I do have a Facebook, but I mean, I don't really use that one that much. But you can connect with me in any of those places, and now Threads.
Hell yeah! Oh yeah!
At bdbtch, no vowels, so I don't get flagged. 666
Smart.
on everything.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Any other plugs? Any other shout outs? Anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Ooh, Shout out to Baby Trash 123 and her project Dream Girl Universe for getting me on this project and for managing me.
Yeah, shout out Emmeline, previous guest on the show.
Shout out DJ Hydru for helping out with some things we may or may not have done today.
It may or may not be happening in just a few minutes. Also, shout out Hydru, also friend of the channel, friend of the show.
We love Drew. And shout out to my producers, Zeppel Beats, and DJ Zone for helping me make everything that I make. Shout out to all the artists who inspire me.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. We've got one last question to go. This is how we close it up. Okay. I'm going to steal the camera real quick and wrap up, though. As always, y'all, make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, and I'm never going to learn, but I trust you. And now, the final question.
Yeah.
What is your guilty pleasure song?
What is my guilty pleasure song?
And, you know, I always just try to tell people, have fun with this one. You know what I mean? Like what's, if you can't think of a guilty pleasure song, what's like the silliest song?
The silliest song?
But Baby Shark is banned.
Oh,
no, I'm kidding.
I'm good on Baby Shark. Oh no, this is a hard question. And I'm sleepy.
It doesn't have to be the most. Just anyone that comes to mind.
Oh, you guys want to know something? I can't believe I'm saying this on my first interview. Oh no. I loved Nickelback in high school so much. And sometimes I still really mess around with certain eras of Nickelback, and the way you're looking at me right now.
Yep.
Anything off of that Blue album, Dark Horse, I think, or some of the ones off the album with the like burning bridge. I can't even remember what it's called, but there's some Nickelback songs that I just get down to.
That's fair.
Guilty pleasure.
Yep. You nailed it 100%. Also, I don't think anybody else has said Nickelback yet. So we've gotten a few Limp Bizkit.
I'm blushing.
We've gotten a few.
Authentically love Limp Bizkit.
We've gotten the We Like to Party by Bang Up Boys more than once.
I don't know that one.
It was the Six Flag guy one. Yeah, that's come up more than once. And there's a few other ones, but we have not gotten Nickelback yet. So.
Well, now I know what my guilty pleasure music is.
They're on the board now.
Woo! I mean, butt rock. Butt rock as a genre.
True. All right. We're going to officially wrap this up, but before we do, you guessed it, we've got a surprise, so we'll be right back.
Don't care if it's 222. Glad to kick my man out. He's got nothing on you. Give him the boot to taste the sole of your shoe. Tame my eyes, I would give you the moon. To live our night in the afternoon. Nothing I wouldn't lose, but it's better. But it's better if you do. Of all the gin joints in all of the world, my favorite song with my favorite girl. Swinging your hip, sugar, I got the next round. Just say the word and we're going down. I'm falling apart to halftime, dying inside for you to be mine tonight. You still waste my time, dreaming of being alive, but you'll never be. Of all the gin joints in all of the world, my favorite song with my favorite girl. Swinging your hip, sugar, I got the next round. Just say the word and we're going down. Of all the gin joints in all of the world, my favorite song with my favorite girl. That one was Oh My God, They Were Roommates by bdbtch666. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're at the Witch's Castle today. Watching, I suppose. This next song is Skeletons.
In bed you sleep alone, I'm afraid to come home. Confined by a comfort zone, blinded by the smoke you blow. No more, one more chance to show your trapped or circumstance ammo. It got old fucking ages ago. Fucking ages ago. Living amongst the skeletons, the withered love that we once lived. I went to bed with a corpse last night. Might have been me who took his life. Kiss your head and turn off the light. We weren't meant for more than a past life. Kiss your head so maybe we won't fight. I saw the end but nearly lost my sight. Living amongst the skeletons, the withered love that we once lived. I went to bed with a corpse last night. Might have been me who took his life. Kiss your head and turn off the light. We weren't meant for more than a past life. Kiss your head so maybe we won't fight. I saw the end but nearly lost my sight. Kiss your head so maybe we won't fight. So this is goodbye.
And just like that, y'all, we've made it to the end of another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. I'm Jimmy.
I'm bdbtch666.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.